like this team, just based on 2025, yes, it has an easy schedule, but I feel like there are some legitimate concerns about this roster and this team that just went 6-11. Let's go back and forth. Name them.
The youth, right? They're relying heavily. My guy Eric Crocker actually tapped in on this. I asked this question on Twitter this morning, and that was Croc's concern, how youthful the defenses are. Good long term, hopefully, but maybe iffy in 2025, at least in the beginning. I think youth is one of the concerns you have coming into this season. How quickly can this D line figure it out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they need this defense. They need like 5 rookies to play well. They need Robert Saleh to coach. They need him to be right on these players that they picked. And I think even if he is right, it would be like normal and natural to expect the defense to struggle early in the season. I mean, these players could be all really good and the defense could be bad for the entire year or half of it. So it's going to be interesting. Can the Niners like weather the storm as CJ West and Alfred Collins figure it out? Because I mean, like they haven't, Alfred Collins, Michael Williams, these guys haven't played in this particular type of D line before. I mean, they haven't played with Chris Kasarik in this wide 9 thing. They're going to have to learn new techniques and it might take them a while.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, man. You want me to give you another one?
I'll give you another one. How about the fact that their offensive line got worse? I mean, you could say that Aaron Banks wasn't worth the money and Jalen Moore wasn't worth the money, but they didn't find upgrades over those guys. They just found cheaper replacements. They brought back Banks back up in Barch, and then they signed Andre Dillard, who's not as good as Jalen Moore. Like they didn't really win many games with Jalen Moore, but at least he kept Brock Purdy. Well, Brock Purdy got hurt too, but it wasn't Jalen Moore's fault. It wasn't. Andre Dillard, I mean, that guy shouldn't be playing and didn't play last year. So you just made this huge investment in a quarterback who may or may not be worth it. The contract is structured in a team-friendly way, but you might want to protect your investment, and the Niners haven't yet. Not really, not seriously.
Agreed. I mean, I think you brought up another one that, I think is a valid concern. I think a lot of Niner fans are in the emotion of Brock Purdy signing a long-term contract with the 49ers, but the reality is he did not play good last year. And his arm was concerning looking on his deep balls. They fluttered, they were short. And I don't know if he was injured and he's now healthy, or if that's what we can expect from Brock Purdy moving forward. And what Brock Purdy are we going to see? Are we going to see the Brock Purdy from 2023 where he looked really good, or are we going to see the Brock Purdy from last year who dropped the ball and just didn't look as good? So, the other thing is a lot of players don't play as good after they sign a contract. I do think with Brock Purdy's personality, I'm less concerned about that than I would be with, another player, with like I was with Brandon Ayuk, for instance. But it's a valid concern. Like, is paid Brock Purdy, comfortable in life Brock Purdy, different from hungry Brock Purdy? So there's his health, and there's just life changes when you have over $100 million guaranteed. Your life's different. So what is that going to change with Brock? Maybe it changes nothing. Maybe he's still motivated, more motivated. I don't know, but that plus his health, I think, is a concern.
Yeah, and I think there was this one big split. We get bombarded with pro Brock Purdy stats all the time that explain why he's so elite, and his QBR and his EPA. And that stuff is valid to a degree, but there's other splits that just paint a different picture. Like last year, his passer rating versus zone coverage was 115.2, which was number second best in the league. And his passer rating versus man coverage was 61.5, which ranked 37th. That's like backup quarterback territory. And that's scary. I mean, it was better in 2023, but I think what we've seen with Brock, and he's going to need to show that we're wrong here, or that I'm wrong, is that he's great against zone, because zone coverage is very much about your mind, sort of anticipating where the opening is going to be, because there's always going to be openings and windows in zone coverage, anticipating them and knowing which player is going to get there and throwing the ball early to a spot. It's not so much about your weapons or your arm talent, but against man coverage, it is. And I think with the Niners, when Christian McCaffrey was out there at his best, teams were so scared to play man-to-man coverage because everyone felt like, well, we can't cover him man-to-man. We don't have anyone who could. So our options are to like bracket him and be one-on-one everywhere else or play zone. And a lot of people played zone, and that played right into Brock Purdy's hands. But McCaffrey, with him out, got a lot of man-to-man coverage. And I mean, we heard like, the receivers get blamed, 30-second in separation, yada, yada, yada. I don't know, man. George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, pretty good players. Maybe this is more of a Brock thing. He needs to prove that he can beat man coverage. He's going to keep getting it.
Yeah, and speaking of beating man coverage, I think another concern for me is wide receiver. They're not going to have Brandon Ayuk to start the season. Demarcus Robinson, I don't know if it's been announced yet, but he's supposed to have a 3-game suspension. So the receivers, the only real experienced receiver they have is Juwan Jennings, and then we're hoping Ricky Pearsall makes a leap. He looked okay last year when he had his opportunities.
We don't even know that he's better than Demarcus Robinson. I mean, the starters could be Robinson and Jennings. We don't know.
We don't know, I guess, but I think my personal intuition is that Robinson is better than Pearsall, but we'll see. But they're not going to have him for the first 3 games. They're not going to have Brandon Ayuk for the first 5, 6 games, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
So,
and then when he does come back, is he going to be Brandon Ayuk or a different version until next? He may not be the real Brandon Ayuk until 2026.
Yeah, so those are the concerns. Like going with Jordan Watkins. I mean, you're going young here. It's almost like the D line, the wide receivers, right? Juwan Jennings is the Nick Bosa of the wide receiver group, and then you have second-year guys or first-year guys. Like, what's Jordan Watkins? Is he going to work out? Is Jacob Cowing going to take a step up? Like, who is going to be that third wide receiver for the 49ers right now? I don't even think Kyle Shanahan knows.
Well, I think the idea was it was supposed to be Robinson, but if he's out, I mean, because with Kyle, there's like physical talent that matters, but I think what's almost as important or more important is knowledge of his system. And Robinson has it because he played for the Rams for 2 years. So there wouldn't be as much of a learning curve for him as there will be for Jordan Watkins. And I think a big reason that Jacob Cowing didn't play much last year is because he was a rookie. And Kyle doesn't like playing rookie wide receivers unless he absolutely has to. There was no pressure to play a 4th-round pick last year. Easy to, give him tough love. Now I think he probably knows the system. And, I mean, he knows it better than Jordan Watkins. So I think he's got a leg up in that competition.
And I've heard, I don't know where I heard it from, that he's put on a little muscle.
I think Kittle said it at the Dwight Clark event.
Yeah. So that's a good sign. So those are the big
I also
concerns.
think he was underrated last year. The Niners coaches never have anything nice to say about him, but when he got on the field and they threw passes to him, he was, dude, that one deep pass late in the year where he ran the stutter go. I don't know. I don't remember exactly who he was against. He was so freaking open. It should have been a walk-in touchdown, but the really highly paid quarterback underthrew the pass. Great player, but the pass was underthrown. Still a catch. Should have been a touchdown.
He didn't get many opportunities, but when he did, he looked great. He looked he looked really.
That was
good.
against Kansas City. Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't remember what game it was. I just remember he flashed every time he had an opportunity. And one thing about Cowing that no one has really said anything about, but if you go back and watch the film and his opportunities that he has had as a wide receiver, as small as he was blocking his ass off. So I think he understands that that's what you have to do here with the 49ers, and he did a really good job at it, actually. So, maybe Cowing is a guy that steps up for the 49ers. That would be fantastic.
Niners better be careful with him because he could be a player who has success elsewhere if they cut him. Because to me, he looks like the kind of guy who could be a really, really good deep threat. If you put him with he reminds me like T.Y. Hilton a little bit. Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Like you put him with a quarterback who can really take advantage of a guy 50 yards down the field. He's going to be dangerous, but I don't know that that's necessarily the Niners, their system, their quarterback, their offensive line, their playbook. He may be a better fit elsewhere, but they better be careful. They better get something for him on the way out if they don't use him, because he's going to be, I think, a very explosive playmaker in the NFL.
Yeah, and the next, I mean, I don't know if you're ready to move on, but I have another the biggest concern to me is really Christian McCaffrey. And who's behind him, right? Like Isaac Rendo looked also good when he had his opportunities, but he's been unhealthy his entire career in college and in the NFL. He doesn't seem like an every down back. So if Christian McCaffrey isn't healthy for some reason and he can't go, Isaac Rendo's not an every down back. And he, based on his career, he's going to get banged up at some point. So they're going to have to rely on Jordan James, a rookie, or a Patrick Taylor, who is physical and tough running back, but not necessarily a RB1 in the NFL. I don't know about this Corey Kiner kid or the Israel Abanikanda. So a lot of unknowns at running back. If Christian isn't healthy, it's a lot of big question marks there at running back.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like Christian's been carrying the offense for the last few years, which seems crazy because there's so much talent there. But I think I keep comparing him to Stephen Curry, at least on the Niners, because when you have a play, there's 5 eligible receivers. That's kind of like your basketball team. Those are the glamorous players, your starting 5. And when McCaffrey's in a pattern as a receiver, he's like the only receiver in the league. He's the only running back in the league who's wide receiver 1. Essentially, for all intents and purposes, when he's running a pattern, defenses are more concerned with him, or they were in the past, than anyone else. Debo, IU, Kittle, maybe they were wrong, but that's who they were freaked out about. And the fact that he had that kind of impact, call it gravity, on the field, just made everyone's job so much easier. It turned Ayuk into a all-pro. He got so many guys paid. And I think when he went down last year, people were like, that's okay. Ayuk can carry the offense. Not really, not the same way. I mean, even Kittle couldn't. So I agree with you. So much depends on Christian McCaffrey. When he's healthy, he's the best player on the team, and the Niners go really far. When they don't, it feels like the whole team was built around him, and he's not there. It looks like the Warriors without Steph.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why he's the most valuable player on this team, at least for this coming season. If he's there, anything's possible with this team, even more so than Trent now, I think, because I anticipate Trent playing 10, 11, 12 games. So I don't anticipate him being there all the time. But I think CMC is even more important than Trent. It's either CMC or Trent, but I would lean on CMC because the whole offense changes when he's not there, and they don't have anyone really on his level. No disrespect to the rookies, haven't seen him yet. Maybe he's amazing, but as of right now, that is my biggest concern. It changes everything, changes the passing game. It changes everything. They get behind the sticks, and they have to play outside themselves. CMC allows them to be at their best and work within their strength, which is front running. So they need CMC. They need Trent to be healthy for them to have any shot this year, in my opinion.
Yeah. They do. I mean, do you have a concern with Kyle Shanahan? He's got Robert Saleh back in the building. He was so bad last year. I think it's fair to say he was one of the worst. That was one of the worst coaching jobs in the league last year. Yeah, I mean, some guys got hurt, but the team was a freaking mess. You had Debo hitting the long snapper. You had contract stuff overshadowing football all offseason. They seemed like a disjointed, dysfunctional group last year. Can he at least get the team back to being cohesive?
Yeah, to me, Kyle was awful last year, but he's actually not. He was. But that's why I'm actually not concerned about Kyle this year. And I'll explain why. Like, I feel like he was burnt the F out. And you could see it on his face. You could see it in his press conferences, the things he said, how he responded. He revealed that he felt the season was basically doomed, that the team was weaker than it was the prior season. Like, all of these things, like, show me you were burnt the hell out. And not making the playoffs might have been a blessing in disguise for Kyle Shanahan, getting that extra time off to think about it, to rest, and then getting Robert Saleh to take some of the burden off your shoulders. You really shouldn't have to think much about defense at all with Robert Saleh as your defensive coordinator. You should trust him and delegate to him to make all those decisions about who plays and what you're calling, and not have to worry about it all, so you can refocus on the offense. And then one other quick thing is he hopefully learned his lesson from last season by not really having an offensive game plan outside of CMC and then Debo. Now Debo's gone, and I'm hoping that he understands, hey, I got to figure out a backup plan if for some reason Christian McCaffrey is not the guy that he used to be. How can we still be effective? How can we score in the red zone? I'm going to hopefully give Kyle the benefit of the doubt. He's thinking about all these things right now.
Yeah, like what is your plan to score touchdowns? Because the last 2, 3, 4 years, your plan was give the ball to Debo, give the ball to Christian, give the ball to Debo, give the ball to Christian. Occasionally throw the ball to George Kittle. So what's the plan this year? Because I mean, I don't think you can just spam Christian McCaffrey like you did in the past. You could try. You tried last year. It didn't work out. And if he gets hurt, the whole season's over and you know it. And I wonder, like, how much job security does he really think he has? Does he think he can go 7-10 again and keep his job? Or is there gonna be a little bit more urgency to like actually make the playoffs no matter what, the way like Mike Tomlin does? Or the wheel's gonna fall off again. I don't know. I mean, it seemed like the wheels fell off right after the bye week last year, and he didn't do anything. He just kind of stood back and watched. Like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, man, and another, you bring up a good point, which is another concern of mine. They have no power running game. And Jordan Mason was fantastic at that. Christian's really not good at just running, in the A gap and just powering through on the goal
Right.
line. They have a fullback who's not built to do that either. So, and they have an offensive line who's not really good at that. Beyond Purdy, I think Poone's probably good in the power run game. They run behind him, but he's right next to Jake Brindle. Um, the power run game, right? It's third and goal on the 2-yard line. Who are you giving the ball to punch it in? They
Is it
haven't
supposed
that
to be
hasn't
Jordan
been a strength
James,
of
the
theirs.
rookie? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't
So
think you want to use Christian like that this year. You really want to run him into a pile like that? Why?
right. I mean, they're going to have to, and that's probably what they will do. But I think they need. I feel like they need to take this $40 million that they have and invest in a running back, maybe a power back, to complement Christian McCaffrey, as well as like what we talked about, wide receiver, safety, things like that.
Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for playing. Use promo code COHN, COHN, and download the app now. I got one more concern. The team is so top heavy. They got their 8 core members that all make a bajillion dollars. You know who they are. Everyone else is either a rookie or a second-year guy, completely unproven. They don't really invest in middle-tier players anymore. So the last couple of years when they've given out extensions, they've had bad luck with them. I don't know if it's just bad luck or whatever, but Bosa signs his extension, goes from defensive player of the year to 5th best edge rusher in the league. Fine. Trent Williams signs an extension, misses hella time. Christian McCaffrey signs an extension, hurt. Brandon Ayuk signs an extension, hurt / seems kind of disinterested. Now you got 3 more. Purdy, Kittle, Warner. I wouldn't accuse any of them of like losing interest in football after signing extensions. I mean, we've already seen Kittle and Warner sign extensions. They really love football. I think I assume Purdy does as well. My question with them is more injuries. All 3 of them got hurt last year. All 3 of them. And it's football. And if 2 of your 8 guys who are making so much money go down, you're in trouble because that's your team. Those 8 guys.
Right. And I think, we don't talk about it because he's so good. He's a Hall of Famer, Trent Williams, but he's going to be 37 by the time the season starts. That's pretty old for an offensive lineman. What's he even going to look like? Let's say he's healthy. Is he still going to be Trent Williams? I mean, he'll probably be better than, even at 80%, he's probably better than most left tackles in the NFL. But there's going to be a decline at some point for him, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think what I'm concerned about with all of these guys that they've paid, that they've invested in, isn't necessarily like their play, like their performance. It's more the availability. How many games are you going to get from Trent Williams this year? How many games are you going to get from Brock Purdy this year? Seriously. Like, he got hurt last year, but he had this contract to get. I mean, he came back. We don't know if he should have been playing. Like, will he do that this year? Or he has guaranteed money in 2027. Seems like Christian McCaffrey. It just seems like human nature. If you're playing for a contract and you don't have guaranteed money on your deal, you're going to go out there and play hurt. But if you do have guaranteed money for years, I mean, you need to protect your body, because if you don't, then the whole thing could end. So I don't know. I'm just curious how many hungry players are left on this team and how many guys are going to miss a lot of time this year due to injury, because the Niners keep investing in guys who, availability is a question for them.
Yeah, 100%. I think, we've actually got pretty lucky with Brock Purdy. He's been injured a few times, a couple major, like one major one, concussion, ribs, things like that, but he hasn't missed a ton of games. So
Mhm.
what you have is a history of a guy who's, been banged up quite a bit, but hasn't missed a ton of games. Knock on wood. Hopefully, that doesn't change this year, but odds are at some point, that will happen. So
I mean,
that's another concern.
in the pocket, he's not super safe. The Niners don't have great pass protection. And he holds the ball a long time. When he's playing like he did as a rookie, less likely to get hurt, although he did get hurt his rookie year. But he's become sort of a playmaker, a guy who likes to scramble around. And we've seen him dive for first downs, lay out. I mean, isn't that how he hurt his shoulder against Seattle last year, laying out early in the game? So he kind of puts himself in these positions. He's a gritty gamer. I don't expect him to stop doing this stuff. And he's
Mhm.
smaller. So, yeah, I think injury is always going to be a concern for Brock Purdy, even though he's younger.
Yeah, I mean, the history on the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan, we've had some bad luck with that. It seems like, every other year, quarterbacks are missing a lot of time. We've had quite a bit of luck with Brock Purdy over these last 2 years, him not doing that. So, I hate, you look at data and, trends and statistics, and at some point that probably will change, especially a guy like Brock Purdy. Now, if he was playing like Tom Brady, where, he just got the ball out, you would be less concerned about that. But someone that takes the kind of hits that he takes with this protection scheme, you do have to worry about it. Hopefully, it's not something that we, see this year.
Yeah. And then it's like if he goes down, you got Mac Jones. We're kind of interested in Mac because Kyle always wanted him. He seems like a good fit in the system, but I just can't help but notice that the rest of the league is sort of going a different direction at quarterback. I mean, the Seahawks, they hired Clint Kubiak, comes from the Niners. He drafted Jalen Milroe. Like the Packers, same coaching tree. They got Malik Willis as their backup and Jordan Love as their starter. Seems like most teams want a quarterback who's mobile, at least one of them, maybe as a backup. And Kyle's like, no, 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 no. It's totally unnecessary. We tried it with Trey Lance, didn't work. I'm betting on my scheme. Curious to see if that works out because that's why they had Brandon Allen on the team last year. They felt like he was a veteran who could execute the scheme, and it didn't work out. So I'm curious to see if Mac Jones, who's lost 19 of his last 25 starts, can turn it around here the way Sam Darnold appeared to do.
Yeah, that's why I like Brock, his mobility and his ability to escape. I think Brock's got to find that balance of when to do it and when not to do it. Even in his interview recently, I think maybe it was on KNBR or something. He was talking about how he needs to trust his pocket more, and he's bailing too quickly. And so maybe that's a difference we see with Brock Purdy. He said, get back to the fundamentals, get back to my footwork, trust the offense, get the ball out, trust my pocket. Those are things that he wants to work at. But also, I do like his escapability and his mobility there. But he's got to be careful with it because I think sometimes there are opportunities that he's passing up, and also he needs to stay healthy.
What's interesting to me is that each of the last 2 years, this is Pro Football Focus, take it with a grain of salt. But in terms of their grades, each of the last 2 years, his passing grade was good, not great, in like the low 80s, which is not quite top 10, borderline top 10. His running grade has been elite. I think they had him as the number one runner graded in the league in 2023 and then very high in 2024. That's to me a little bit of an exaggeration. I would take certain guys over him, but I do actually agree that his legs are more valuable or just better than his arm. I agree with
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's what it's a big difference going from him to a Mac Jones,
Yeah.
right? They're going to have to get back into the Jimmy Garoppolo era of
Yeah.
this 49ers offense, get the ball out quick when
That's
he
the
comes
biggest
back.
difference between Purdy and Mac Jones and Jimmy. The legs. If
Yeah.
Purdy all of a sudden sprained his ankle and had to play, like Jordan Love did last year, like stationary because he had a high ankle sprain, I mean, it would look a lot like Jimmy Garoppolo. It would look a lot like Jimmy. It might even look worse. So that's the thing with Brock.
Well,
He's got to keep finding a way to move without getting hurt.
I mean, I like Brock as a quarterback way better than Jimmy Garoppolo. But I will say this, when it comes to just dropping back and getting the ball out quick, accurate on time to your first or second read, Jimmy was pretty damn good at that.
Quicker release, stronger arm, taller.
It's just when you had to go beyond that first or second read is where Jimmy became awful.
Yeah. And that's why no one would say that Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Brock Purdy. Everyone's happy that the Niners moved on. Still, though, I mean, when Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback here and he played with Christian McCaffrey, he won all the games he played except for one against the Chiefs, who also beat Brock and Christian.